And if we could choose to love in the way that God loves us, in spite of our faults, in spite of our differences, then we can have real change.
I would start by saying that I was pretty badly misrepresented in the Rolling Stone article.
This thing is going to be crazy. I don't think you understand the backlash or all that's going to come from it. But he said something to me. He said, "You cannot stand for God and God not stand for you."
In the battle of attack versus defense in the NBA, you can almost always place your money on attackers coming out on top. But don't mistake it, folks, because there's quite literally no greater nightmare for even the very best superstars than coming up against a formidable defender. Oh, and talking about defenders who enjoy defending from attacking parades, one man who just doesn't get as much credit as he deserves is this incredible baller right here, and his name is Jonathan Isaac. Now, if that name doesn't ring a sound alarm, it's because this insane rejecter doesn't get talked about nearly enough. But if for 1 second you ever doubt his abilities, then a brief look at his numbers will leave you shell-shocked. I mean, this is a player that had frustrated Wemby so many times that when the Rookie of the Year was asked for one thing he looked forward to the most, he said, "I wish I could dunk on Isaac." Unbelievable, right? Now you'd think that gives you an idea of what an incredible defender Isaac is, but tell you what guys, it doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of his ability.
Jonathan had a preconceived idea about pastors. Later on, I found that out. So I was just building relationship with him. And
if the NBA is going to do those things, I would honor it. But at the same time, I would ask that it doesn't seem logically consistent.
So who is Jonathan Isaac? How good is he, really? And more importantly, why isn't he being talked about enough? Well, without further ado, let's introduce you to the Minister of Defense himself. And you definitely want to stick around until the end to find out how he's managed to be a thorn in Wemby's side. Ready? Then let's get right in. Born on the 3rd of October 1997, Jonathan Judah Isaac was one of 6 children born to Jackie Allen in the Bronx, New York. However, he'd later moved to Florida, where he attended high school and, of course, got to develop his love, passion, and skill for basketball. For young Jonathan, though, basketball was more than just a hobby. It was a means of escape, a way to overcome the anxiety he had developed early in life as a result of being a black kid in a predominantly white neighborhood. Oh, and it all worked out well that he was damn good at the sport too. In Florida, Jonathan initially attended Barron Collier High in Naples, and that was where his skills began to capture attention. However, he only stayed for his freshman and sophomore years before moving on to the International School of Broward and then to IMG Academy. Even though his decision to join IMG had been completely based on promoting his basketball career, which he did, the post-high school program not only allowed him to reclassify to the class of 2016, but also afforded him a chance to really show what he could do on the court. In his lone year at IMG, the youngster managed an impressive 17.6 points and 10.0 rebounds per game to help the academy to a 21-10 overall record. His year was so impressive that he was immediately branded a 5-star recruit, invited to feature in the Jordan Brand Classic All-Star Game, and listed as the 12th overall best recruit. Heck, his game was so mature that he was briefly considered for a double jump directly to the NBA. Crazy, right? Well, if you think that's crazy enough, wait until you hear he was even predicted to be selected in the first round of the drafts, despite potentially declaring from high school. Now, how about that? In the end, though, he would pull out of the drafts for personal reasons and commit his college future to Florida State. Of course, Jonathan's journey to the NBA didn't turn out to be as fast as earlier considered.
The journey of how I got there in the first place. When I grew up, I really struggled with fear, anxiety, self-insecurity, and it was a process in me getting to where I am right now.
I'm not sure if that rule regulates for opposing teams. I'm not sure. But I think, for me, I'll just take everything in stride.
But it certainly wasn't for his lack of abilities, because this kid could play. His dominance even became more brutal in his college days, as he made sure to show everyone that he was obviously primed and ready for the big league. It also helped that he grew an extra 6 inches in high school, and it ultimately contributed to his position change from a guard to the seasoned combo forward he is today. But here's something you didn't know. Most of what the Minister of Defense, as he's fondly called, does today, he pretty much developed in college, and Florida State couldn't have been more grateful that he did so in their colors. Jonathan's involvement with Florida State immediately made the Seminoles much better, to the extent that they were considered the 6th best team in the country, and only the 2nd seeded in the ACC tournament. His 12.0 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 1.3 assists were enough to get him into the All-ACC Freshman Team of the Year and put him tight on the radar of several NBA teams for the 2017 drafts. In the end, the rapidly rising 20-year-old would be selected by the Orlando Magic as the 6th overall pick, and so began a career that would cause nightmares for even the biggest NBA stars. But before we get into that, kindly take a second to leave a like and subscribe to this channel to help us grow. This will make a huge difference to us, and in doing so, we can continue creating more new and exciting content for you guys. Done that? Excellent. Now, let's get back to business. You see, folks, when Jonathan Isaac was snapped up by Orlando with their number 6 pick, it wasn't much of a surprise. Of course, he wasn't the most experienced, but which draft pick ever is right? And on the other hand, it was already clear that this kid could play. But then, what wasn't really clear was if he'd be jumping right in as a starter. Well, if that had been a difficult decision for the coach, a right ankle sprain sealed the decision and left the 6'10" combo forward on the sidelines for almost the entirety of the season. His return the next season was more than crucial for Orlando, as the team had stumbled to a 14th place finish in the Eastern Conference, with a worrying 25-57 record.
Jonathan, you've made history tonight. You are the tallest person we've ever had on our show.
I refer to it, if the NBA is to give us regulations like we can't, maybe sit at the same part of the plane as the other players or eat in the same room as the other players.
With Jonathan on the team, though, it was a different story entirely, and this time there was no debate whether he deserved to be a starter or not. His impact on the team was massive, and he helped improve their record to a much better 42-40 that season. His 10 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1.1 assists, and 1.3 blocks per game may not sound like the most impressive, but they helped Orlando get to the playoffs, even though they ultimately lost out to the Raptors in the first round. Now, if you're wondering just how good this player is, and why his presence manages to have so much impact on the team, well, here's a breakdown of his impressive abilities. Well, the first thing you should know is that there aren't many active players in the NBA as good as Jonathan in defense. And that's not even hype. This is a player that pulled incredible blocks against the very best of the best last season. We're talking names like Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Green, Brunson, and Wemby himself. Oh, and there's absolutely no forgetting that double rejection he pulled against former MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. In fact, the phrase "rejected by Isaac" is one we've gotten used to hearing every other Orlando game day, and it's a testament to his incredible abilities. He's such a formidable figure to the extent that the Rookie of the Year and Man of the Moment, Victor Wembanyama, had to reveal in an interview that there's nothing he would love more than to funk on the 27-year-old. Of course, Wemby has already established himself as one of the most prolific dunkers, but the memory of the humiliating rejection he got from Isaac last season will no doubt be fresh in his memory until he gets his wish. Strange enough, at 6'10", Jonathan Isaac is definitely not the biggest lad out there. But then, he has built a reputation as an absolute beast in defense, so much so that he's already the big villain that scares the shit out of attackers.
Well, ultimately, the most important thing for me is to use my platform and what God has given me ultimately to glorify Him. And so I found myself in a moment where I said, I know what the right thing is.
I think that we're all different. We all come from different places. We've all had different experiences and hold dear to different beliefs. And what it is that you do with your body when it comes to putting medicine.
He's quick to get across the ground to cover dribblers. His instinct is also top-notch, as he knows exactly when to charge and when to hold his position. But then, the highlight of his game is undoubtedly his firm blocks that send attackers running back with tails tucked between their legs. His size, speed, and athleticism make him a top contender for rebounds, steals, blocks, and pretty much every defensive action. Tell you what, it's almost as if he was built to defend, and there aren't many players you'd want guarding your rim than this man right here. Oh, and it's no wonder the Magic boast an impressive defensive rating of 101.7 with him on the court. But now you gotta wonder, if he's really that good, how come no one's talking about him, and why isn't he getting the awards for his defensive magnificence? Well, anybody who knows the superstar knows his one limitation, and it's the fact that he can't catch a break with injuries. No doubt, he's truly the minister of defense when he's fit. But then, the thing is that he's hardly ever fit, and it's so unfortunate for him and the Orlando Magic that he's never played a full season without as much as a knock. In his 7 seasons in the NBA, Jonathan has sprained his ankle, injured his back, knee, hip, and hamstring on multiple occasions. He's had a few concussions too, and has been out sick for multiple games. For perspective, he's missed about 3 full years combined due to injuries and had only featured 64 times for the Magic in the last 4 years. Now, you see why you haven't really seen much of him, right? Well, surprise, surprise, he started the new season with a hip injury again, and even though he's back now, you just can't help but feel he may not be available for long before he's back on the treatment table. So, while the Orlando Magic will be hoping for an extended stay this time, they certainly will be preparing a contingency plan for when what has now become the inevitable happens again. And there you have it, folks. But what's your opinion, though? What do you think about Jonathan Isaac as a defensive force? Will he manage to stay fit this season? And if he does, will Wemby finally get his wish and dunk on the Minister of Defense? Do let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that subscribe icon for more exciting videos about your favorite NBA stars.